felt compelled to come on the air a little bit earlier this week after what I've had to endure this weekend. What I had to endure this weekend were an abundance of people talking a whole lot of stuff about me because they did not like what I had to say about Representative Jasmine Crockett.
You know, and I would put Stephen A. Smith in that category too. I'm mad at y'all for having joy. I'm mad at y'all for having success. I'm mad at y'all for surpassing us on college campuses. And so it's a small sect of men that are so angry and hurt that they're willing to align with the people who oppress us. What am I getting wrong? Because if you listen to Stephen A. Smith and you find anything other than some absolute pure self-hating little dick energy nonsense from that half-witted idiot basking in the non-existent rays of his own ignorance, it is sad to me that he even gets an audience of black men. Why aren't black men right now saying, Stephen A. Smith, we banning him, we not listening to his podcast, we're not watching his show anymore? That's what black women do. We organize.
Yeah, but they're... All right, family. So what I have been seeing is a lot of people with too much time and not enough common sense talking all types of recklessness when it comes to Stephen A. Smith, simply because he dared to say what needed to be said about Representative Jasmine Crockett. You know who I'm talking about, the walking, talking TikTok soundbite from Texas, the one who thinks acting like a sassy auntie on a reality show is somehow political power or just being ghetto as ever. And now apparently just critiquing her is enough to get you labeled everything from a sellout to a self-hating to having a little D energy, as you guys heard what she said, talking about his genitals. Yes, we have officially reached a level of delusion where if you don't praise a liberal black woman like she's the second coming of Harriet Tubman, you get stripped of your blackness. Congratulations, America, we are here. Now, I'll say this right now. Stephen A. Smith was 100% right, and I'm not going to stutter on that. But what's wild to me is watching these so-called intellectuals like Tamika Mallory, who you guys just heard say Stephen A. Smith with his little D energy, and even Bakari Sellers sitting to the left of him right here with his eyes rolled up to the sky. I don't know if he's high, but turning into emotional wrecking balls over this man saying, hey, maybe you should act like you're arguing at a Waffle House when you're on the house floor. That's it. That's the big crime. Now, they're on some crusade talking about black men need to turn off Stephen A. Smith. No, really. So y'all got all this smoke for a sports commentator with an opinion, but zero for the actual ineffective leadership of the woman being criticized. And y'all are mad at Stephen A. Smith for having standards, but not mad at Jasmine Crockett for having no results. And this ain't about protecting black women. This is about protecting the Democrat Party's mascot. Let's continue.
I do not like him. I peeped him early. I knew what he was about. Let me tell you something, family. Anytime I hear racist white people say they like you and you black, I already know you're a sellout. I already know you're shucking and jiving. I already know you're not for your people. I know that for a fact. It's very easy. And add that one. Here we go. So this is what Tamika Mallory had to say. Black men, I have a question. I see a lot of great commentary from many of you on Stephen A. Smith's ignorant statements time and time again. This time he disrespected a powerful black woman who's putting her life in danger fighting for us. At what point will you all lead the charge to turn him off? And over here, I did respond to Tamika's post. I don't rock with him at all. However, for many sports fans, it's hard to turn off someone like Stephen A. Smith because he's not just a commentator, he's a caricature. Networks know that polarizing personalities drive engagement. Whether you agree with him or not, he's giving people something to react to, and reaction equals ratings. The business model of modern sports media isn't built on accuracy, it's built on emotion. Who can make you yell at the TV or post a clip online? It's easy to avoid his podcast, but being on a huge platform like ESPN's First Take makes it harder to escape him. The show mixes him in with guests and co-hosts people do like, such as Shannon Sharpe, professional athletes, and celebrities, or whoever's across the table that day, so he stays in the mix by association. Even if you tune in for someone else, you're still getting Stephen A. front and center, weaving his coconut ass into every debate and every highlight. Tamika replied with this actionary statement. Willie D. Live, I appreciate everything you wrote. You have been consistent in calling out his BS. I would only offer this. The way to deal with him is to be disciplined and hit the people who employ him. They are responsible. We always talk about building our own. Perhaps there needs to be more sports commentary on some of your pages so people have somewhere else to turn. ESPN needs to know he does not represent us, and his attacks on Black women are punishable by financial loss.
Public support to make healthcare affordable.
Family, before we get to that, that was Willie D, okay? Let me rewind a little bit. That was Willie D right here. And basically, he's saying that Stephen A. Smith disrespected a powerful Black woman, putting her life on the line for us. First of all, who is us? I don't know. What war is Jasmine Crockett fighting in? You out here acting like she's dodging bullets in Selma when she's just out here chasing popularity on C-SPAN network TV. The only thing she's risking is Twitter suspension, not her life. And this whole Protect Black Women movement has turned into an emotional shield for liberal mediocrity. And these women aren't labeled, or these women aren't leading, not labeled. These women aren't leading. They are loud. That's the difference. So let's go ahead and get to the bottom of this, because what Stephen A. said was simple. He questioned if her street level, viral ready language was actually productive for the people she claims to represent, her constituents that elected her and voted her in. And it's not. Let's stop pretending it is, because she's not out here getting bills passed. She's not bringing money home. She's not building coalitions or negotiating for her district. She's out here dropping sound bites, raising money off Instagram reels, and getting retweets. That's not legislative work. That's influencer work, content creator. She's not running Congress. She's running a brand. And what kills me is the hypocrisy. You got folks like Bakari Sellers trying to drag Stephen A., and he doesn't even have the depth to talk about appropriations or oversight because, excuse me, Bakari, you barely have the debt to order correctly off of a Cheesecake Factory menu. And let's not play this fake intellectual game, right? Let's check out what he has to say on CNN and how he talks.
Public support to make healthcare affordable.
100%.
And the failure of the Affordable Care Act, we can call it the ACA to avoid the A word that's in there, but the reality is the subsidies were put in.
I call it Obamacare. I give it the real name that it deserves. The person who actually tried to fix our broken healthcare system that's given millions of people access to quality care.
That has given that family you were talking about earlier now $25,000.
No, that's why we
premiums.
let me ask you this question. Who repealed the subsidies? What bill?
Which subsidy? Are you talking about the current subsidies that are going to expire?
Yes,
these were temporary subsidies.
Who repealed them? Who did not extend them?
Subsidies.
Who did it?
They just weren't made permanent. They just weren't made permanent.
The Biden budget that, by the way, a bunch of Democrats supported. And you talk about Democrats coming back to the table in this case. Democrats don't need to come back to the table. They need to pass the budget they've passed 4 times in the past. Right. That is why the government is shutting down. Right. So they're using this leverage. Right. So the Democrats shut down the government. They hope to use this to try to extend these subsidies, to try to expand other elements. Sure. Fair. Fine. But let's talk about this for what it is. Republicans voted against this budget under Biden, and I get why Democrats are now doing it under Trump. But don't call this a Trump shutdown. It's Schumer shutdown.
Well, listen.
Exactly. Because if Stephen A. doesn't have the depth, then show us how Jasmine Crockett is deep. What bills has Jasmine Crockett passed? What policies has she shaped? And I wanted to show you guys Bakari, because he's the one sitting here criticizing or coming at Stephen A. Smith for basically criticizing Jasmine Crockett for her work and what she has done in regards of her job, not coming at her with personal ad hominem attacks. And to see that Bakari couldn't even substantiate his point when it came to the government shutdown, as you guys should see on CNN, That's the point when I mean when he's trying to come off intellectual as he actually is when he's really not. But he's trying to say a whole bunch of word salad to sound like he's being intellectual, but doesn't know what he's talking about half the time. Now, and I want to go over to the Breakfast Club because they had some things to say in regards of Stephen A. Smith calling out Representative Jasmine Crockett over the criticism of Trump and so forth. Check it out. To Bakari, I do want to say that I agree with Stephen A. Smith, and I don't believe he say anything wrong because if you can't point to results, but all you got is rhetoric, that ain't leadership. That's performance art. So, and let me say this before she gets into Bakari Sellers. To me, he's one of the most annoying types of people. He's the guy who thinks he's way smarter than he actually is. And if you ever met one of those, you know what I'm talking about. But they memorize a few terms from a poli-sci textbook, throw in a couple phrases like appropriations process, and suddenly think they're Malcolm X with a law degree. And meanwhile, they're not saying the thing that moves the needle. So let me tell you what's really happening. This man is defending Jasmine, not because she's right, but because she fits the image. She's the black liberal woman who speaks the language of other liberals. And she talks like she's on Twitter and she screams like she's oppressed and she calls Trump every name in the book. And most importantly, she never threatens the Democrat power structure. So she's useful. And that's why the defenders are coming out in force, because when you criticize her, you are indirectly threatening the system that keeps these frauds in business. And speaking of frauds, can we talk about this cancel Stephen A. Smith movement after they get off their thoughts in regards to talking Charlemagne the God if she doesn't pass anything? So all you can talk about is the baseless work that is being shown, because in her resume, what has she passed? Much of. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm always open to the possibility of being wrong, but we're having a conversation. But you can't sit there and be like, oh, well, we don't critique her work ethic. We critique her policy. Well, at the end of the day, how effective has she been in passing policies as well? Let's just use our common sense here. I mean, let's just call it what it is. So, with that being said, all I'm going to say is, and I want to know you guys' thoughts down in the comments, with this whole cancel Stephen A. movement. The same people calling him a sellout are the same ones who watch his show religiously. And Stephen A. Smith, no matter how you sit here and try to explain to these individuals, once they don't rock with you, they don't rock with you. You better off saying what you said and just leaving it at that. Because the more you explain yourself, the more they're just going to disagree with you anyway. This what comes from being a prominent figure, and at the end of the day, no matter what you say, they know they're going to disagree anyway. So just say what you're going to say and leave it at that, Stephen A. Things now, and the reality is, who is Charlemagne the God to say that, oh, well, it's not easy to work with a person like Trump? Well, how would you know that? Have you worked with him, Charlemagne the God? You know what I'm saying? Every day I wake up. And this is where I can say, as Charlemagne the God, and hold him accountable, that instead of critiquing Donald Trump, look at his policies, right? Hold him up to the same fire. And this is what I mean about the hypocrisy here.
Institutions of higher learning in particular have to be these bastions of intellectual debate, right?
But it's not intellectual debate. These are white supremacists.
I'm talking about that.
Yeah.
Can I just say more generally, though?
Sure.
They're not. If people are thirsty, they will drink from a mirage, even though the water is not there.
Preach.
Because somebody's telling them something. And my experience has been a lot of young people, a lot of people in general, don't have
I'm going to just leave it there.
ideological lenses necessarily.
Ideological lenses. That's the problem. Why are we so busy going off of ideology instead of logic? Ideologies it can be a thought-provoking conversations, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's reality, right? But with this whole Stephen A. cancel movement, look, y'all mad because Stephen A. Smith is visible and not controlled. And let's be honest, ESPN loves him because he's polarizing, he triggers people, he gets clicked. That's just the business. The folks pretending they want him off air, please, you'll be back at 10 a.m. sharp, front row with the popcorn. And first of all, I don't condone no one trying to cancel someone and getting their money and getting their bag and putting food on the table for themselves. And what I respect about Stephen A. Smith, I don't always agree with the dude. Is that he doubled down. I got to respect that. He didn't flinch. He didn't issue an apology. He stood firm and said, if Jasmine Crockett is as educated and brilliant as you say, then why is she talking like she's on the block instead of at the table? It's just facts. And she ain't talking like that because it's authentic. She's talking like that because she knows it performs. And she's playing a character, the whole ratchet policies persona. It's a costume, a script. And you ever go back and watch her speak before she got elected? Totally different tone, totally different delivery. She's a social media invention, not a serious stateswoman. And when Stephen A pointed that out, boom, they called in the attack dogs. But let me give you the deeper layer here. This ain't about Jasmine. This is about control, it looks like, right? Because the message is loud as clear. If you're a black man in a public space and you criticize a black woman, even respectfully, you'll be labeled a threat. And they will slander you. They will come for your income. They will isolate you. And that's crazy to me. Why can't we have a productive, thoughtful conversation? Why it got to be this divisive rhetoric? I hate when it turns to this white and black thing. But in today's liberal ecosystem, black women are sacred cows, but only the liberal ones. Conservative black women, they don't get protection. They get mocked because this was never about gender. It was about politics. So let me say this. You are not above criticism just because you're black and a woman. Nobody is, right? You are what you put out there. You don't get to hide behind identity while doing nothing of substance. That's not strength. That's fragility wrapped in privilege. And Jasmine Crockett is not being attacked. She's being questioned, in my eyes, in my opinion. And if a few questions break you down, maybe you're not built for public office because the job ain't to go viral. It's to get results. And let's not ignore how disrespectful her language is. She calls Trump a thug, a criminal, a piece of sugar honey iced tea, calling the governor Hot Wheels like she's a seventh grader in a cafeteria. Is this your queen? These guys talk about Bakari right here with his eyes shut. You want to talk about respectable politics? Cool, but don't cry foul when you lose respect. She wants to be taken seriously while talking like she's filming a sketch comedy. You don't get to get both. And let's be real, Stephen A never disrespected her personally. He didn't call her ugly. He didn't talk about her body. He didn't call her names. He critiqued her job performance. How many times have you worked a job and they actually give you, they actually rank or they actually look at your job performance throughout the year to see if you're actually up to standard and looking at things to make you do, looking at things where you can be better in your job performance. You know, like we do in every public, we do with every public servant. We critique their job performance, right? But is it because it was a black man critiquing a liberal black woman? I don't know. Suddenly it's open season on his manhood, his blackness and identity, his job. That's not justice. That's just a witch hunt. Like, so what's the bottom line? Stephen A have valid points. Jasmine Crockett is more influencer than legislator. She's performing. Her district ain't getting results. And her keep it real persona is just branding. But the reaction to Stephen A shows you what the real game is. It's not about progress. It's about power, right? Power over a black man, power over conversation, power over narrative, power over to cancel anyone who questions it. So, look, man, I'm going to leave it at that. Let me know you guys' thoughts down in the comments below. Hope you got some value from this video. I appreciate you for rocking with me. And if you watched this far, I totally thank you. Love you guys. Catch you in the next one. Peace.